Hi, I'm Jamie Dowswell here at SAF Congress in Amsterdam, and we've just heard the latest market outlook report on the SAF market from SkyNRG and ICF, and I'm delighted to be joined by Oskar Meijerink from SkyNRG. Oskar, welcome. And we're going to ask a few questions about that report and hopefully share some of the insights before you download it online from their website as well. Oskar, can you begin by telling us why do SkyNRG and ICF produce this SAF market outlook report? And what's the main objective for doing so?
It started basically 6 years ago as an internal document for SkyNRG. So we developed it as our strategy on, okay, where's the market for SAF and what should we do in the next 5 to 10 years? And when we produced a report, we thought we might as well publish it to bring the market forward. And it's been always one of our key sort of reasons for building our company to develop the market for SAF. So 3 years ago, actually, we started developing together with ICF, and that's been very successful. So since then, we do it as a collective effort to bring the jet fuel and the aviation knowledge from ICF and the SAF expertise from the SkyNRG team together and really bring forward that market development exposure and get the entire industry to learn about what we've learned the past year. So that's why we're doing it.
I'm also here with Mark Kelly from ICF, who are the co-authors of the SAF Market Outlook report with SkyNRG. Welcome, Mark. And I'd like to ask you, one of the report's key conclusions is that the SAF market has moved from ambition to execution. And what does that shift look like in practice? And how important has policy been in driving SAF market growth? And what impact are the mandates having? Quite a bit to unpack there. Sorry about that.
Quite a few important questions there. So 2025 saw the first year of the market shifting from mostly a voluntary market into a compliance-driven market. So we had the mandates in the EU and the UK coming online. They were both met comfortably. There was over 2% SAF volume supplied in both markets, so that was exceeding what was required to be provided. In the US, we did see quite a large supply of SAF as well. It was about 800,000 tonnes. And that's a completely voluntary driven market. So we're getting both dynamics occurring at the same time. So the importance of the mandates in Europe is providing a backbone of demand. So whereas in America, it's largely monetary driven. So it's reliant on incentives and it's reliant upon some of that voluntary and corporate demand to get us there. So we do see an oversupply in terms of the capacity entering the market. However, that does not directly translate into a SAF production surplus because a lot of that capacity can switch. But yeah, maybe to wrap all that answer up is that the mandates have kind of shifted the market. We've seen some changes in behaviors. We've seen some early market creation challenges. For example, we've seen issues with price and transparency and documentation pass through to airlines. But we have seen the mandates being met comfortably.
And the report forecasts a lot of demand growth through to 2030. What's driving a lot of that demand?
So we forecast about 12.8 million tonnes of demand, SAF demand by 2030. Of that, 5 million tonnes is coming from regions that the mandates are currently in place. The other 3 million we project coming from regions and countries that are likely to introduce mandates before then. So that's about 8 million tonnes of demand coming from mandated regions. The rest is coming from countries such as America, the USA, where there are policies in place to minimize the cost of SAF and to kind of drive that voluntary demand. So we expect most of the demand to be coming from those mandated markets, but a large chunk also coming from the voluntary market.
And despite that demand growth, the report suggests that the market could be relatively well supplied through to 2030. Why is that?
That's correct. Again, that comes back to the point that demand about 12.8 million tonnes, whereas we project capacity in the region of 18, 19 million tonnes. That does not have a direct meaning that 18 million tonnes of SAF will be produced. It just means that that capacity is on the market. So that kind of supply gap could be lowered or shortened due to lower utilization rates on the SAF producers, so they're not producing their nameplate capacity. There could be a shift to renewable diesel from the HEFA producers. So we're already seeing that in Europe and in the US, for example, where there has been the shift back from some producers in the product slate back to renewable diesel. And then on top of that 12.8 million tonnes of demand, there will also be additional voluntary demand. So coming from mechanisms such as the FEETS mechanism in the EU ETS, trying to drive that additional demand that's voluntary.
And if there's one key takeaway that people can take from this report, as much as is, I think, a 65-page document, I mean, what would be that kind of overarching, hey, this is what we've established?
I think we're quite aware of the messages coming from the industry around the challenges, but I think we have to focus on the positives as well. Like, this is an entirely new market we've created in such a short time frame. We're scaling quite rapidly, and there are going to be these early market development challenges and frictions. It's whether we can overcome those quickly, because they do have a considerable monetary impact on, for example, airlines. It's whether we can overcome that quickly, and whether we can continue to accelerate the SAF policy development, because without that, we need to accelerate our development to have a chance of reaching net zero.
I think a great message to take away. I was delighted to see lots of green arrows in the report as well, not just red. So if short-term supply appears manageable, then why do you identify the period beyond 2030 as the industry's biggest challenge, as per the report?
Yeah, it's a good, that's what we call the HEFA tipping point, right? So it's around that 2030 timeframe when we're running out of HEFA type feedstocks. So we can still grow those feedstocks, but it will take time to do so. And at that same moment in time, we also see an extensive growth in demand. So from 2030 till 2040 and 50, we really see that exponential growth in SAF demand, and we can't fulfill all of that with just HEFA-based SAF, right? So we need to diversify the pathways. We need ESAF, we need advanced biofuel pathways to fulfill that demand. So that timing around 2030 is really crucial. And to be able to manage that growth after 2030, we need to start scaling these projects now, because some of them are technological innovations or new type of projects that need some development and need a proof point before we can really scale in terms of volumes.
Yeah, it really is crunch time. I agree with you there. Absolutely. And for anybody who hasn't yet seen the report, where can they get it?
It's on our website. I think there's a specific link. It's also pushed through the app of the event. We'll share it over LinkedIn, all the media that will be there. So it's going to be hard to miss it if you're in the sustainable aviation fuel industry, but it's on the SkyNRG website for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for participating with us this week as well.
All good. Thank you for having us.